Hey, Miss Marion here. We are actually starting Unit 1, Lesson 1. We actually handed out workbooks today, so you will need to get a workbook. If you get on today's Canvas page, there are PDFs of both the workbook and the practice problems. So if you do not have a workbook, you can go ahead and print those out, do the different activities, and then you can get a workbook when you come back with me. And then also when you go ahead and get a workbook, on the front page, I'm going to ask you to put in Team Loki, your first name and last name, and then the class period. The reason for that is every single Unit 1 in the whole entire building is actually this lime green kind of stuff. If you put Team Loki, it comes back to me. If you put your first name and last name, it goes back to you, and then you don't have to worry about a lost workbook. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn all the way back to page 151. Back on page 151 is our learning activities, our I can statements. And we're going to read, we're actually doing lesson 1 and lesson 2. Okay, so we're going to read a couple of things. On page lesson 151, for lesson 1 is I can describe how a figure moves and turns to get from one position to another. So go ahead and please notice how I have this before and then after. You're going to write yourself a sentence right now, a before sentence about how you feel about this lesson, how you feel about the I can statement. And then I'll also give you yourself a number, which is down here. 1, I don't remember. 2, I kind of remember. 3, I do remember it. And then 4, I can teach it to my friend. So on page 151 also is lesson 2. Lesson 2 actually has 2 I can statements. They're both not on here. I apologize for that. So I can identify corresponding points before and after translation or transformation. I know the difference between translation, rotation, and reflection. Again, go ahead and give yourself a sentence about the before, how you feel about this I can statement. Give yourself a number. So 1, I don't remember. 2, I kind of remember it. 3, I do remember it. And then 4, I can teach it to my friend. All right, what I need you to do is go ahead and turn to page 7. On page 7, we have this diagram. And this diagram, you are going to answer which one doesn't belong. You are going to fill in the I can, the sentence frame. You're going to write this on page 7 underneath the picture. I think blank doesn't belong because blank. So I think whatever letter doesn't belong, and you're going to give me an answer to that. So go ahead and write this underneath the diagram. Answer the question, which one doesn't belong, and then go ahead and come back to me. So there's many different answers that you can have. So one thing might be, I think A doesn't belong because it's straight. I think B doesn't belong because it's kind of like a right triangle. I think C doesn't belong because it is the acute angle. It's the smallest. I think D doesn't belong because it's bigger, but not also straight. So there's many different ways as far as which one doesn't belong in here. So some of the terminology that we could have talked about is we can talk about array. So remember, array starts at a point. Oh, sorry, let's get a pencil in here. So we have a point, and then it's a line that keeps on going on forever and ever and ever. So notice how we have an arrow. Starts at a point, and then there's an arrow, and it keeps on going on forever. A right angle has 90 degrees. So notice, to show it's a right triangle, it can either be labeled as 90 degrees or it has this boxing, right? A degree is a measurement of an angle. An obtuse angle is one that is bigger than 90 but less than 180. An acute angle is less than 90 degrees. And a straight line makes a straight angle, and this is our straight line. All right, so on page 7, you are not going to be able to find this picture, but on page 7, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the different cards, and we're going to write down how does it change from one to another. So if you look at it, it goes, how does it change from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then 5 to 6. And so you're going to write all of this stuff down on page 7. So let's kind of put that in there. So on page 7, you're going to write down how did we go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6. Okay, so go ahead and pause answer that question, and then come back to you. So page 7. All right, so here is how we go from the different frames. Known as how we go from frame 1 to frame 2, we actually moved to the right, or we slid to the right. To go from 2 to 3, we actually turned, and it's actually a 90 degrees, and it is what is considered counterclockwise. And counterclockwise is actually to the left 90 degrees. Now going from 3 to 4, so going 3 to 4, we moved to the left or slid to the left. 4 to 5, we moved up or slid up. And then 5 to 6, we went ahead and we turned 90 degrees clockwise, which is also known to the right. And clockwise and counterclockwise actually comes from a physical, not digital clock, but analytical. It's the ones that have the little hands on it. If you watch a clock, clockwise is to the right, counterclockwise or backwards clockwise is to the left. So in class today, we went ahead and we did partner work. So we have card A was partner A, card B was partner B. What I want you to do is I want you to pick either card A or B. And again, you're going to go ahead and figure out from frame 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then 5 to 6. And we're going to, again, we're going to write these questions on page 7. It's actually page 7. So go ahead and do that, and then come back to me. So here it is, a little bit bigger. And if you need to pause this video at any time to go ahead and do any of this, you can. And then here are the answers for card A and card B. We go ahead and look at your answers and check and make sure they are correct. And if you have any questions, you can pause this and then go back and look at the cards, make sure they're doing it correctly. So then next, what we're going to do is, again, you're going to pick a card. I would actually pick the card that you did before, and we're going to actually do it in reverse form. And again, this will go ahead and we are going to write this on page 8. So we're going to pick it down, so card A to card B, describe in words one of the reverse dances. So what it means by reverse is we're going to start at 6, go to 5, 5 to 4, 4 to 3, 3 to 2, and then 2 to 1. Go ahead and write your answers on page 8. So pause, answer this on page 8, and then come back to me until you can check yourself. So here it is a little bit bigger. And again, if you need to pause this one, please do. And then here are the answers. So anything that you notice about doing it in reverse. So one of the things as far as like if we, at first if we moved it to the right, then we're going to move it to the left. So it's kind of opposites of each other. And then again, if it was counterclockwise, then we're going to do counterclockwise. So notice how when we're doing it backwards, everything is backwards or opposite of what we did at the first place. So the first part of this lesson, Unit 1, Lesson 1, again, we were looking at the different frames. And so we're going from 1 to 2. What did we do? Here we moved, okay? And then here's an example of a turn, okay? So right now we're either sliding back and forth, either left to right, right to left. And now we're either turning to the right, turning left, or turning clockwise or counterclockwise. So we're going to go into Lesson 2. On page 13, we have this picture here, quadrilateral, so a four-sided figure. A can be rotated in the position to quarter B. So we're actually starting with A, and then we are going to B, okay? Estimate the angle of rotation. I think blank, it is blank degrees because blank. So go ahead and answer that question, and then come back to me. All right, so I personally think that the degree is 120 degrees. And I'm going to kind of show you why. So what I did is I put my protractor, the middle point goes here. I put my protractor line this way, and I read it from 0 and then all the way up to this line here, okay? And the reason why I noticed that this line is the same as this line. So I was looking at the rotation and how it moves, and it came out as 120 degrees. All right, so on page 14, we have these frames, right? And if you look down below, it says describe each move or see its new move. So we're going from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then 5 to 6. Go ahead and write those down on page 14. So again, we're doing 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6. All right, if we go ahead and go through these, going from 1 to 2, so 1 to 2, we are move to the right. Okay, then we're going from 2 to 3. So 2 to 3, that's a little bit different than what we did before. And so if we kind of think about it, it is actually, this is a new move, because we were trying to see a new move. Okay, and right now we don't know what the answer is. So then we're going from 3 to 4. So going from 3 to 4, oh, that looks like a turn. So we're going to have it as a turn, and it's 90 degrees. And it's turning to the right, which we also know as clockwise. Okay, and then now we're going from 5 to 6. 5 to 6, it is also considered a new move. Okay, and we're going to kind of figure out what that new move is going to be. So if we look at this new move, and I kind of put this in backwards, but this is 2 to 3. So for 2 to 3, notice how we can kind of draw this imaginary line, and it actually goes from here to here, right? This is what is called a reflection. Okay, it's kind of backwards of each other, and it's reflecting what is going on. So that is this new move.
So this is considered a translation. Notice how it slides to the right, and then it slides to the left. This is what is considered a translation. This is considered a rotation. Notice how it rotates clockwise or to the right. Notice how it rotates counterclockwise to the left. This is a rotation. It is turning. This is a reflection. So notice how the two of those are reflecting to each other. So we can actually reflect it over different lines. And so notice how it can reflect over that line. It's kind of like the first thing that we did in the first day of school.
All right, so now we have all these different frames. What you're going to do is you're going to label each one of them. What is number 1? What kind is it? Is it a translation, rotation, reflection? What is number 2? Translation, rotation, reflection. So we're going to actually go ahead and label these. Go ahead and write all of these on page 15 as far as the different cards and as far as the pictures in them, the different frames. Go ahead and do pause, answer that question, and then come back to me. You're writing it on page 15. All right, so if we look at number 1, so 1, it's going from here to there. That is a slide, or it is considered a translation. Okay, if we look at number 2, we're starting here, kind of going way up here. This is a rotation. Looking at number 3, kind of going from here to here, they're looking at each other. This is a reflection. Looking at number 4, number 4 is also a reflection. It's a little bit different, but if I put a line kind of down this way, is actually a reflection. Okay. Number 5 is also considered a reflection. If I put a line up here, it is reflecting, so this is a reflection. Number 6 is kind of weird, but number 6 is actually considered a rotation. Number 7 is a slide or a translation. Number 8 is also considered a slide because you're kind of starting from here and sliding up. So this is a translation. And then number 6, it is actually a rotation. Or sorry, number 9, it is a rotation. So let's kind of fill in these sentence frames. It is a translation if it slides. It is a rotation if it turns. And it is a reflection if it, I'm going to say mirrors it. So if we look at all of these different pictures here, right here, what would it be considered? This is a translation. It's sliding. What is this one down on the bottom? This is a rotation. A rotation will always have a degree of rotation and also a center point, but this is a rotation. We'll talk more about this a little bit later. And then up here, notice how we have a line of reflection, and then this is a reflection. So starting on page 16, we have a lot of vocabulary. The first one that we're going to talk about is what is considered an image. Okay, an image. This is actually on page 16. An image is actually where it's if an object is moved, okay, and it stays put. So we move it, and it's the end result. So an image is an end result. Go ahead and put a definition down for image on page 16. Next, we have a congruent. Congruent is exactly the same. It's kind of like a twin. So go ahead and put a definition. The one that's on my slide here is a mathematical definition. It's really wordy. Please do not write this down. But a congruent is exactly the same. Also on page 16, we have clockwise. Remember, if you look at my clock, which way does it go? Oh, it goes to the right. So clockwise is a turn to the right. Counterclockwise is opposite of my clock. If you look at my clock, opposite of my clock is to the left. A reflection of a figure, it needs a line, and it also goes over a line, and so it's kind of a mirror image, reflection. So remember, a reflection, it needs a line to go ahead and do the reflection. A rotation, it has a center point. So I'm going to actually underline this. So we need a center point, an angle, and also a direction. Okay, so we need a center point where it's going to turn, how many degrees does it turn, and then also which way does it turn. So remember, a translation, it needs a distance and a direction. It is a slide. Okay, remember we kind of talked about that. It needs how far is it going to slide, and also which way. This is on page 17. Do not worry about corresponding. We'll talk about corresponding a little bit later, okay? So we are not going to define corresponding, but all the other ones on page 16 and 17 should be filled in with some type of your definition. So let's go back to page 151. Let's read the I can statements for lesson 11 lesson 1 and 2. I can describe how a figure moves and turns to get from one position to another. Give your sentence how you feel after the lesson. So that kind of goes up here in the after area. Give yourself a number again, how you feel now. So 1, you still don't remember. 2, you kind of remember. 3, you did get it. And then 4, you can teach it to your friend. So again, we're also going to do lesson 2. Again, I don't have the second I can't statement, so I can identify corresponding points before and after a translation. I know the difference between translation, rotation, and reflection. Okay, again, give yourself a sentence after you feel about it. And then also numbers. So 1, I don't remember. 2, I kind of remember. 3, I did get it. And then 4, I can teach it to my friend. So we're going to do what is called a cool down. We're just going to kind of apply stuff before we start doing the practice problems. And we are going to look at this question here. So we have frame 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want you to take a second and tell me, how do we go from frame 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and what those things are. So go ahead and pause, answer this question, and then come back to me. So going from 1 to 2, so remember going from 1 to 2, what did we do? We did a translation downward, or we slid down. Okay, how do we go from 2 to 3? What did we do to go from 2 to 3? We turned, and it is a 90-degree turn, and kind of if we look at it, it's kind of going to the left. Which way is that? That is counterclockwise. And it is also considered one turn. How do we go from 3 to 4? We are sliding up, or we are translating. So it's a translation up. Here is another question. If we look at it, what type of move takes figure A to figure B? So figure A is this one. And it actually is going to go and kind of make it here. Okay? So what kind of translation takes figure A and goes to figure B? So go ahead and pause, answer that question, and then come back to me.